Corn. Corn is one of the greatest achievements of ancestral genetic engineering. Originating in Mesoamerica, modern corn was domesticated from a wild grass called teosinte about 7,300 years ago. Indigenous peoples carried out rigorous artificial selection, transforming a plant with a few hard seeds into ears full of nutritious kernels. Today, it is the crop with the highest production volume in the world. Corn is an annual cycle grass that requires high luminosity and mild to hot temperatures. It requires deep, well-drained soils rich in organic matter. Row spacing and plant density vary greatly according to seed technology and soil fertility, but the objective is always to maximize solar light interception. Corn is highly responsive to nitrogen, which should be applied as top dressing during the vegetative development phase. Weed control. Fundamental in the first 40 days to avoid competition for water and nutrients. The use of preventive fungicides is crucial to protect the leaf area, especially against rusts and leaf spots. The corn cycle varies according to the cultivar and climatic conditions. Super early varieties can be harvested in 90 to 110 days. Normal or late cycle cultivars can take 130 to 160 days to reach ideal physiological maturity for grain harvest. The versatility of corn is unmatched. Only a small fraction is destined for direct human consumption. Most of the global production is directed towards animal feed, poultry, swine, and beef cattle diets, and industry, being transformed into ethanol, corn syrup, starch, bioplastics, and even cosmetics. Wheat. Wheat is the cradle of Western civilization. Originating in the Fertile Crescent, a Middle Eastern region encompassing parts of present-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, its domestication about 10,000 years ago allowed humanity to transition from hunter-gatherers to sedentary farmers. Different natural crossings and human selections gave rise to the wheat we use today for breads, pastas, and biscuits. It is a crop adapted to temperate and subtropical climates. Planting is done by seeds, usually in flat areas that allow for high mechanization. Wheat requires soils with good fertility and corrected pH. Planting must respect ideal climatic windows to avoid frosts during the flowering phase and excessive rainfall at harvest. Nitrogen fertilization, essential to define not only the yield but also the quality of the grain. Protein content, which defines gluten strength. Wheat is highly susceptible to fungal diseases, such as leaf rust, blast, and fusarium head blight. The application of fungicides is one of the most costly and important practices. The control of competing grasses, such as ryegrass and black oat, must be rigorous. The wheat cycle is also annual, generally varying from 100 to 170 days, depending on whether it is a winter or spring variety and the latitude where it is being cultivated. Wheat provides about 20% of the calories and proteins consumed globally. Being the staple food for billions of people, the price and availability of wheat have profound geopolitical implications, often associated with food security and social stability in various countries. Rice. Rice was domesticated approximately 8,200 to 13,500 years ago in the Pearl River Valley in China. It rapidly spread across Asia, becoming the cultural and dietary foundation of the continent. Unlike corn and wheat, rice is predominantly cultivated for direct human consumption and sustains more than half of the world's population. There are two main systems, irrigated and upland. Irrigated represents the majority of global production. The seeds are planted in prepared and leveled soil, which is later flooded with a layer of water. Upland, planted like other grain crops, relying exclusively on rainfall. Water management. Maintaining the water layer is vital for weed control, thermal regulation, and nutrient availability. Nutrition. Requires balanced fertilization, with special attention to nitrogen and potassium to prevent lodging, plants toppling over due to wind. It varies greatly according to the region and variety, typically extending from 100 to 150 days from planting to harvest. One of the major modern challenges of flooded rice cultivation is methane emission, a potent greenhouse gas generated by the decomposition of organic matter in flooded soils. New techniques, such as alternate wetting and drying of the fields, are being adopted to mitigate this environmental impact. Soybeans. Native to East Asia, soybeans were cultivated on a small scale for millennia before becoming a global powerhouse. Its colossal expansion occurred in the 20th century, driven by the development of varieties adapted to different latitudes, including the Brazilian tropics. It is a legume planted on a large scale under the no-till system. The great ecological and economic secret of soybeans is their symbiosis with bacteria of the Bradyrhizobium genus. Before planting, seeds are inoculated with these bacteria, which capture nitrogen from the air and supply it to the plant, almost entirely eliminating the need for chemical nitrogen fertilizers. Asian soybean rust, the most devastating fungal disease of the crop. It requires continuous monitoring, respect for the sanitary void, a period with no live host plants in the field, and rigorous fungicide applications. Stink bugs, which suck the pods and damage the grains, and defoliating caterpillars are the primary targets of insecticides. Modern cultivars are developed to have increasingly shorter cycles, allowing for a second crop in the same area within the same year. The cycle varies from 90 to 140 days. The agribusiness engine soybean is the queen of commodities. The grain is crushed to generate two main products: soybean meal, the largest source of protein for animal feed on the planet, and soybean oil, used in cooking, the chemical industry, and biodiesel production. Potato. Native to the Andes Mountains, bordered between Peru and Bolivia, the potato was domesticated by the Incas and pre-Columbian peoples. Brought to Europe by the Spaniards in the 16th century, it initially faced resistance, but soon became the pillar of European food security due to its ability to produce many calories in small spaces and cold climates. The potato is a tuber, a modified underground stem. Planting is done using seed potatoes, which are whole or cut disease-free tubers planted in soil furrows. It requires loose, very well-drained, and friable soils to allow the tubers to expand without deformities. Hilling, a crucial practice that consists of mounding soil around the base of the plant during its growth. This protects the developing tubers from sunlight, which would turn them green and toxic. The potato is extremely sensitive to water stress. Soil moisture must be constant but never excessive. Late blight, the same disease that caused the Great Famine in Ireland, remains the greatest global threat, requiring intensive fungicide application programs. It is a relatively fast cycle crop. Depending on the variety, climate, and purpose, the cycle varies from 90 to 120 days. The potato is the most important non-cereal crop in the world. It is rich in complex carbohydrates, vitamin C, potassium, and fibers, making it vital for supplying calories in both developing and developed countries. Sugarcane. Sugarcane originates from Southeast Asia and New Guinea. It was taken to the Middle East, then to Europe, and with the Age of Discovery, it found the perfect tropical climate for its development in the Americas, especially in colonial Brazil, shaping the economy and social history of several countries through the sugar cycle. Unlike grains, sugarcane is a perennial grass cultivated by vegetative propagation. Planting does not use botanical seeds, but pieces of the stalk itself called billets, which contain buds that will sprout. Soil preparation is deep, as the crop will remain in the area for several years, usually 5 to 6 cuts/harvests, before renewing the sugarcane field. After the harvest, the base of the plant that remains in the soil sprouts again. It is necessary to apply fertilizers and pesticides directly to this rootune to ensure the next cycle. The sugarcane borer and the root spittlebug are strongly combated today with an increasing use of biological control, such as parasitoid wasps and fungi. First cycle, called plant cane, can take 12 to 18 months to reach maturity. Subsequent cycles, which sprout after the harvest, take about 12 months. Sugarcane is one of the plants with the highest photosynthetic efficiency in the world. Besides sugar, it is the main source of ethanol in tropical countries. The bagasse resulting from the milling process is burned in boilers to generate bioelectricity, making the mills self-sufficient in energy and suppliers of surplus to the public electrical grid. Cotton. Cotton has a fascinating history of independent domestication on isolated continents. Different species were domesticated in India, Africa, and the Americas. Today, Gossypium hirsutum, originating from Mexico, accounts for more than 90% of world production due to the quality of its fiber. It is a shrubby plant cultivated as an annual. Planting is done by seeds, usually over large extensions to allow for mechanized harvesting. Cotton requires a hot climate and high solar incidence, needing a dry final cycle period so that the fiber does not rot or lose quality. Use of growth regulators. Because it is a plant with indeterminate growth, it tends to grow continuously if there is water and nutrients. The farmer needs to apply chemicals to curb vegetative growth and force the plant to focus energy on producing bolls. The insect Anthonymous grandis is the most lethal pest to the crop, capable of destroying entire fields. Combat involves pesticides and the rigorous destruction of crop residues after harvest. Before mechanical harvesting, products are applied to cause the leaves to drop, preventing the harvested fiber from being stained or mixed with green impurities. It has one of the longest cycles among annual crops, requiring investment and patience. The cycle varies from 130 to 180 days. Although primarily cultivated for its white fiber that clothes the world, the cottonseed is extremely valuable. It is crushed to extract edible oil, and the resulting meal is used in cattle feed. Cassava, also known as yucca or manioc, cassava is a gift from the Amazon basin to the world. Cultivated for thousands of years by the indigenous peoples of Brazil and neighboring countries, it was spread by Portuguese navigators to Africa and Asia, where today it is the staple food for hundreds of millions of people. Cassava is a perennial shrub cultivated for its starchy tuberous roots. It is vegetatively propagated through cuttings, pieces of the adult plant stem, inserted into the soil. It is renowned for its hardiness. It can produce calories in acidic acidic, poor soils, and under drought conditions, where crops like corn and wheat would fail. The soil must be decompressed to allow root growth. Cassava has a slow initial growth rate. It is crucial to keep the area clean for the first 60 to 90 days so it is not smothered by weeds. In some regions and production systems, the aerial part is pruned before harvest to facilitate uprooting and multiply planting material. The cycle is highly variable. For direct human consumption, sweet cassava, it can be harvested from 6 to 8 months. For industrial purposes, starch or flour production, the cycle generally extends from 12 to 18 months, potentially reaching 24 months depending on the region. The cassava is divided into sweet for the table and bitter for industry. Bitter cassava has high levels of hydrocyanic acid, cyanide, and is lethal if consumed raw. The millennial indigenous processing, which involves grating, pressing, washing, and roasting, removes the toxin, transforming it into flours, starches, and tapioca, making it an absolute pillar of resilience and food security in the tropics.